Today we're making
廣東雲吞鴨。
Cantonese-styled wontons. My name is Randy and we are the Laos. We're on a mission to celebrate and pass down our Chinese heritage, one meal at a time. After 50 amazing years as a Chinese chef, my dad's finally retired and he's here to teach you all of his secrets to make the perfect wontons, a dish he's made thousands of times.
大家好，朋友們，今日同大家介紹呢個呢，就係廣州式嘅雲吞。廣州雲吞主要係以豬肉為主嘅嚇，有少少蝦，或者少葱。
If you've never had wontons, it's basically a juicy, chewy ball of minced meat folded into a thin sheet of dough. Wontons are a quintessential Chinese dish with a ton of variations on folding techniques and fillings throughout the different regions of China. In Cantonese, it's pronounced wonton, which roughly translates to swallowing a cloud. They're a staple of Cantonese culture, and in places like Guangzhou and Hong Kong, it's almost impossible to not run into a restaurant or food stall that sells a cheap, heartwarming bowl of wontons or wonton noodle soup. Wontons are like a warm hug in your mouth, and they'll always remind me of my childhood. Growing up, my parents almost always served me a hot bowl of wonton noodle soup for breakfast before school. This recipe will always be near and dear to my heart, and I hope my kids get to experience the same warmth and love that I felt eating this all the time.
我哋而家先切葱先嚇。而家呢，就先啲豬肉切好先啊。呢個豬肉呢，係豬個膊頭肉嚟嘅，我哋先將啲豬肉切成一片片先嚇。點解要膊頭肉㗎？膊頭肉呢，佢冇咁柴啲肉，啲肉會滑啲嘅。呢度呢，係12個安士多啲啦。冇乜所謂咧，你整多咪多啲咪包多啲咯，係嘛？包多啲咪包個 pizza 底咧嗱，我再將佢切成一條條嚇，一條條嘅嚇。 再切成一條條。
Does the type of cut of meat affect? Like, there's more ones that are more tough.
你唔好用嗰啲pork chop肉做餡。
Pork chop is very dense, like really hard.
Yeah.
But soda pork is very chewy. Also, Daddy keep mentioned about don't buy the meat is brand with the machine. If you cut it by hand, then you can cut in certain kind of small piece.
Yeah.
So not hard to choose, but also you have a chewy texture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you use the meat from the store, it's already like a grounded.
Yeah.
Then you don't get that kind of texture because it's too fine.
Yeah. You don't want to overwork it. It's not like the fish balls.
Yeah.
切完一條條之後咧，就再將佢切成一粒粒啦嚇。
Next question, does the size of the meats affect the taste in terms of like how finely you're cutting it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
點解啊？
又如果太大嚿就冇咁好啦，一個又難熟啦，係咪？如果你係切嘅咧，細啲唔緊。如果你係用啲機去打好嗰啲煸豬肉咧，嗰啲包雲吞就唔好食啦，咬落個沙。
The machine ones are really dense?
Very dense.
How do you chop it if you want it softer then?
你撈啲肉嗰時咧，你隻木又俾少水落去，咁嚿肉咧佢先吸到啲水，佢啲肉咪唔乾咯。你切得咁上下細嚿咁，佢就唔會有實嘅。好啦，我哋肉就切好咗啦。呢度美國賣嗰啲豬肉咧，多數係經過嘅 freezer 攞出嚟嘅。我首先用啲水洗沖佢。又擺喺 freezer 有咩事啊？擺呢個 freezer 嗰啲肉咧，佢有一陣嗰雪嘅味喺度。我屋企通常咧，就算整肉餅啊咩都好，我都係要啲水過一過佢，洗開佢。啲血水嚟噶嘛，沖咗啲血水之後咧，啲肉會好食啲，清啲嚇，冇咁多血腥味喺度嗱。睇啲血水，我已經過咗佢啦。沖咗嗰啲血水之後咧，佢就少咗嗰啲血腥味喺度啦，睇到嘛？將佢喺度擎一擎水先嚇。而家咧再將啲蝦切埋佢，我哋係大概係用4個安士個蝦仁咁上下咧，挑晒腸啊咩都有噶啦。如果我就建議你大家喺Lucky啊或者啲超級市場啊都有呢隻蝦仁賣嘅。我呢隻蝦仁咧就係41至45咁上下個 size 咧。如果你愛嚟包雲吞咧就會大粒得滯啦，所以我哋仲切開佢咁樣嗱，一粒粒咁切開佢。
I also wanted to make a special shout out to thank all of our wonderful Patreon supporters for helping bring this video to life. If you enjoy our videos and are interested in supporting us directly, head on over to patreon.com/madewithlao to learn more.
蝦又切好咗啦， 咁多嘢切好晒啦。嗱，我哋先將啲肉醃咗佢先。嗱，撳乾水佢。嗱，
點解要咁？
將啲血水撳咗出嚟咯。撳乾啲佢咪好啲咯。有多時間你咪慢慢叮佢慢慢跌落嚟咯。呢啲佢咪快脆啲咯，係嘛？好啦，我哋而家咧就先調好啲味，醃嗰啲肉先啊。用生粉係2個湯匙，鹽咧1茶匙，糖咧就1個茶匙，胡椒粉大半個茶匙咁上下，蠔油1湯匙，用水係2個湯匙，雞粉咧一個茶匙。我哋將呢啲味料攪勻佢。
Before people ask this, how do you make sure the filling is juicy and not too tough?
撈嗰肉嘅時候一定要落啲水落去撈佢，等佢啲肉咧連埋嗰啲落嗰啲鹽啊、嗰啲蠔油啊、嗰啲水有索多咗水分入去，如果水分入嗰啲肉嗰度，咁佢煮熟嘅時候，佢咪啲皮咪包住嗰啲肉入邊咪有水分咯。但係你唔好等佢凍晒先，凍晒就呢啲粉嚟嘅啫嘛，麵粉啫嘛，係咪？嗰啲你擺得耐嘅話，嗰啲皮吸晒啲水分啦，咁啊變咗嚿雲吞咪乾咯。好似你而家頭先呢啲咁嘅，擺得耐啊嘛，佢咪乾咯。好啦，我將啲肉倒落嚟，撈啊，等佢快脆啲吸收嗰啲吸收啲味啊。
Mix the bowl thoroughly for about 30 to 45 seconds.
好啦，我而家俾埋麻油落去1個湯匙。
點解最尾加麻油？
其實你可以話一齊都得嘅，咁我都首先將啲味啲肉吸收咗先，呢啲就整好咗喺度，等佢靜止一下先，俾啲葱上去，陣間先來撈勻佢。我而家咧就係淨係等佢收下先撈埋啲葱。啲蝦咧，我又俾少少生粉落去，1個茶匙。
The cornstarch acts both as a sort of glue to hold the filling together and also helps to seal in the moisture and juices inside of the meat.
俾少少胡椒粉，好少得噶啦。
Mix the shrimp around for about 15 to 20 seconds to make sure they're all evenly coated. We have all of these ingredients listed on our blog at madewithlao.com, along with step-by-step instructions and video clips to guide you as you make the recipe at home.
係咁多嘢啦，嗱，將嗰啲蝦擺喺隔離，俾個保鮮紙冚住佢，擺喺雪櫃，等半個鐘頭上再撈勻佢，撈勻佢咧就可以煲得到雲吞噶啦，蒸佢半個鐘頭咁上下。嗱，呢係頭先我哋整嗰啲肉啲餡嚟嘅，將啲蝦同啲肉一齊撈埋㗎嚇，濕咗佢就濕佢，
要濕嘅時間啊？
唔俾佢黐埋咯，唔黐啲肉喺度。陣間呢啲我都會包埋佢㗎啦。
可唔可以太耐啊？
通常人哋擺過夜都唔怕嘅，擺過夜都唔怕。總之你又起碼有半個鐘頭嗰頭吸收下啲味，咁佢會乾身啲啦嘛。吸咗啲水分之後咧，佢咪包嗰啲雲吞唔怕濕咯。佢雲吞皮咧有張厚嘅，有中嘅，有薄嘅。我哋用嗰隻咧係薄嘅嚇。用薄嘅雲吞皮。
This is another popular question. Belinda and Dorothy from Patreon and other people ask, what brand of wrappers do you recommend?
都冇乜分別嘅雲吞皮就個個都係咁樣，差唔多係咁樣做㗎啦。我平時用嗰啲都係香港西香港麵廠嗰個 boss 係我哋鄉里嚟嘅，都係姓劉嘅而家。
Oh.
I think the wrap for the wonton is kind of there's no particular brand you can buy. Well, pretty much just local choice. Maybe you just have one factory made wonton wrap, right? Then you have no choice. You have to buy that one.
Yeah.
But Daddy say pretty much they're about the same. They use machine to do the wrap.
我而家有啲蝦喺度嘅，有蝦有咩都喺度㗎啦。有一種包法咧，就用水擺個角咁樣貼埋佢，咁樣俾啲水落去點掉佢，總之攣埋就得㗎啦。咁攣埋就得㗎啦，咁就得啦。就唔好等呢個睇晒喎。咁擺落嚟就咁嘅包法咧，就適宜擺 pizza 嘅。擺喺 pizza 拎出嚟嘅時候咧，佢嗰啲唔會整碰斷咗佢。又有一種方法咧，又係咁樣包嘅。擺落嚟呢度。咁樣就咁攣埋佢就得啦。就咁，仲簡單啲。你包得好醜樣又好，咩都冇乜所謂，最緊要啲餡啫嘛。啲 啲餡靚咪整得好咪得咯。嗱，再睇慢慢嚟，睇住。
For this first method, we'll dab a bit of water onto the 4 corners. Then we'll take the opposite ends and fold the wrapper into a right triangle. Next, we'll fold each of the 45-degree corners into the 90-degree corner. Pinch the top to fully enclose the wonton.
擺嘅時候咧，一定喺呢個擺底下，咁啊圓嘅喺上邊。
For the second method, all we need is a spoon. After putting about a teaspoon of filling in the center of the wrapper, we'll press our thumb and index fingers into a hole and drape the wrapper over the center of the hole. Then, with our spoon, we'll press the center of the wrapper into the hole. Finally, we'll close the wonton by pressing the tops of the wrapper with our thumb and index finger.
我以前喺廣州見到嗰啲包雲吞麵嗰啲師傅，好快脆包雲吞嗰啲師傅啊，一咁甩係攣埋就係啦。我就冇佢咁嘅水平啦，我只係知道係咁樣做法。你做嘅時候咧，你唔一定話包得好靚好靚，總之包得個餡唔好走出嚟得啦嘛，好簡單嘅啫嘛。你嚟做啊嚇，好嘛？嗱，你首先畢咗啲餡上嚟。
知唔知道要畢幾多啊？
你係咁上下得啦，唔一定好多嘅喎。啊，你擺喺中間嘅手度，就撳落佢，撳落佢，你撳佢落嚟就攣埋得㗎啦。俾佢尖，係咯，攣埋咯，攣手工啦，咪咯，個手指公壓埋咯。你就唔好過下邊嘅手指公，淨係俾個手指公攣，咁咪得咯。冇咁簡單啫嘛。好似好細啊！你而家夠大㗎啦，俾水點啊，佢4個角。得啦，啊，俾啲水點啊佢，啲手指點啊4個角，嗱，唔使咁就咁揸住得啦。啊，點佢4個角，1、2、3、4，接埋佢。攣埋佢，攣佢，再將呢邊咁樣貼過去。呢邊喺呢邊後邊嚟。呢邊後邊嗰邊去，都長啲，攣埋佢，啲手揸埋佢啦，係啦，攣埋佢啦，good， 咁咧你就擺喺底下，係咁容易噶啦。
你最中意邊個方法啊？
而家呢個咯，呢個咪快脆又唔使點水啊嘛，唔好太dính得太實大力喎，睇得餡咧個擠個皮就會裂咯喎，唔使dính得咁實，知道嘛
？Pamela from Patreon asks, what's the best meat to wrap ratio?
太多咧又包唔到，咁啊多啲好食啲啊，係咪？太少咧就冇我哋你係一個茶匙上下就應該擺落去，或者多少少上嚟啦，唔好話平咁多啦，係咪？多少少上嚟咁咯。
Too much meat, then will be sometimes it's not cold easy.
Yeah.
But if you put little meat, you don't feel the wonton texture, the wonton good taste. All you chew is the skin, the wonton raw.
Are wontons always that size?
啲皮啊就有時買啲有啲個每個廠出嘅唔同，有啲大啲，有啲細啲嘅。通常我哋啲雲吞都係咁上下大粒啦。呢個24粒㗎啦已經。一次過你包嘅時候咧，包多啲嘅話，你咪可以擺入 freezer 咯。擺入 freezer，你慢慢即係食，中意食嗰時候咪攞出嚟食咯。當然你整一次餡，你包你一次食唔晒嘅啫，係咪？我包住咁多先啦。你包剩咗之後咧，你要俾嘅嘢包翻埋佢。如果唔係，佢會乾咗。如果一次你包唔晒一包皮嘅，你膠袋咁樣裝住佢，擺入個 freezer。因為一包皮咧要成100粒咁上下嘅。如果你想一次包晒佢，咪包晒佢，咪俾多啲肉一齊將啲雲吞一次包好晒佢，擺入 freezer。我呢啲咧擺喺雪櫃先啦。等得閒我先至再包埋佢啦。呢啲咧就係我上次朝早時包好嗰啲啦，我哋咧就將佢擺入去 freezer。
If you made a bunch of wontons like my dad, then to freeze them, you'd lay them on a tray, place them in the freezer for 3 to 4 hours, and once they're about half frozen, you can place them in a bag to take up less space. If you freeze them right away, then the skins will all stick together. To cook frozen wontons, we just need to defrost them for 1 to 2 hours before cooking.
雲吞麵鋪做嗰啲咧，佢包好即刻就煮噶啦。
咁放佢，咪擺 pizza 就慢慢食就得啦。你一次中意食幾多咪攞幾多出嚟咯，哇，好容易簡單啫嘛。咁都嚟煲雲吞。
Next, we'll bring a pot of water to a boil to start cooking our wontons.
嗱，而家水就滾啦，我哋將啲雲吞擺落去。
After placing our wontons in, our stove will be set to high heat until the pot returns to a boil. Once it's at a boil, set the stove to medium heat.
擺落去之後咧，慢慢咁喐喐佢，整佢，唔好俾佢黐住個底。好咗之後咧，嗱，喐喐咁咪得啦。
This is probably our biggest question. How do you stop the wonton from breaking when you're cooking it?
佢爛啦，叫啲雲吞煮到佢爛啦，都係啲雲吞已經黐咗底下度。擺得耐佢咪黐住個底下咯，你再整到時咪爛咯。頭先我咪睇到，我俾啲雲吞落去咧，就搞佢，唔好俾佢沉底。咁搞完咗之後咧，佢就唔會沉底啦。
Actually, Daddy never have wonton broken.
Also, if you put too much filling, it's more likely to break, right?
捏得佢睇實嘅，佢咪擠咗啲餡咪走出嚟咯。佢皮好薄嘅啫嘛，啲肉熟咗會脹開。脹開嘅話，如果你都幫得佢太實咧，嗰個雲吞皮咪會爆開咯。
等佢滾咗之後，你咪收慢火，中間都得啦。睇到嘛，浮曬上嚟啦，浮咗上嚟，等佢靜止一下，你俾少少嘅凍水落去。
凍水有咩作用？
靜一靜咧，就慢慢將佢熟透啲。通常咧，我好多時候直情俾佢煲滾，煲到熟為止噶啦。你可以唔俾得啦。雲吞麵嗰啲師傅，我多數都係俾啲凍水落去，咁啊再流起咁樣嚇。
In total, we boiled our wontons for about 4 to 5 minutes. The addition of cold water is optional but recommended. This happened about 3 minutes into the process after the pot returned to its first boil. After adding the cold water, we let the pot return to another boil, which took us about 2 minutes. They're generally done once all of the wontons start floating.
見你啊，嗱，兩種雲吞就兩種樣喺度啦，睇到嘛？有啲就咁攣埋，有啲嘅俾佢割咁樣。好啦，收火得啦。啊，兩種雲吞，邊度你食啊？嚟試下嚟，可以食噶啦。嗱
Okay.
嗱，咁慢慢食，好食啊。哦，好啫嘛。 Okay.
Optionally, you can garnish with some green onions, your favorite chili oil, or anything else you'd like.
呢個就係我哋嘅廣東雲吞啦，希望大家中意。跟住咧，我陣間再做一個雲吞麵，希望大家中意。多謝大家。
多謝唔止雲吞
雲吞啊！
Wow, your first one.
多謝 first one
好嘢！
哇
Eat like daddy, huh?
First question from Belinda from Patreon and a few other people. What's the best cut of pork to use?
講健康啲就係膊頭肉咯，想好食啲就俾啲五花肉咯。通常啲人中意有啲肥肉撈埋。我哋健康啲，經常喺屋企我就唔肉攞啲肥豬落去，就用膊頭肉啫。
Yeah, okay. More wonton. Stinky face, huh?
Look at him.
Stinky face. And somebody doesn't like pork, you want to do it chicken. What kind of part of the chicken is best?
如果用雞整咧，乜嘢部分嘅雞肉係最好嘅？
雞髀肉嗰啲肉就冇咁實，雞胸肉咧就會實啲。
Okay, that's related to another question. What is the traditional wonton filling?
柯羅豬肉，我細個先喺廣州嘅時候咧，見到柯羅一大盤咧用豬肉做，唔好蝦。而家廣州有啲傳統嘅都係用豬肉，唔用蝦嘅。不過而家改進咗好多用蝦啦，用啲蝦落去佢更加冇咁實。
Yeah, I feel if you cut some shrimp, the shrimp is not too tiny. Oh, that is.
You have that little crunch flavor
Yeah.
that you get from the shrimp.
Yeah, the shrimp is different kind of texture.
Yeah.
Helping the wonton is more better.
I think a lot of people mention maybe they're allergic to shrimp or they don't like shrimp. Is there something else they can put in there, say pork with something else that gives it the extra pop?
新鮮嘅冬菇就 OK， 如果你係嗰啲乾冬菇就唔會爽嘅，唔會爽嘅。
筍粒或者馬蹄，
筍同埋馬蹄都得。
比較穩。
講啲啊嘛。
你哋有冇素食雲吞㗎？
素食雲吞你想整咪有咯，又可以用嗰啲mushroom 啊嗰啲咁樣得筍啊豆腐乾啊咁切埋佢一樣得啫，又落啲生粉咁整佢，粉絲都得嘅。
哦，粉絲 yeah，
Yeah.
粉絲、豆腐乾、馬蹄、筍、新鮮 mushroom and carrot。
We get sometimes they'll be like pork and cabbage. But cabbage is a watery vegetable, right?
椰菜唔好，椰菜整鍋貼就好。
So what's the difference between when you're cooking a pot sticker versus a wonton?
鍋貼咧要多用啲菜，鍋貼又唔可以全部用肉嘅喎，肉同菜嘅比例係菜多過肉。
呢個係
呢個就唔可以
成個係肉。
你呢個全部係肉。
Patty from Patreon and a few other people asked, can you freeze the wontons? If you can, how long?
We can do 1 month for Daddy.
When I was doing it with Dad, the original way we just did it like this, and then I just squeezed it, right? I didn't use any water. But one of the other ways we did it, I put water on the edges and then folded it. I always thought you had to use water to make it stick better. So do you not really have to use water? It's just pressing it tight enough?
你咁樣撳實佢咧，因為嗰個口就已經有啲肉喺度啦嘛，啲肉有啲汁喺度濕住噶嘛。你捏嘅時候嗰啲肉都已經黐住嗰皮噶啦嘛。咁當然你咁樣啲水捏住有另外一個做法，佢咁樣捏埋又一個做法。嗱，兩樣做法都 OK， 兩樣都得。
I think sometimes when I've been wrapping things, maybe I use too much water and then it's like really slippery and then it falls apart. If you use too much water, is it likely to break? Oh, okay.
Dorothy and Mumbles from Patreon asked, is it better to make the skin yourself?
如果你自己整，你有買嗰個機，你要自己用手做唔到嘅，整唔到一塊皮咁菠蘿都係咁薄嘅。你自己點樣整唔到？一定係要個 machine 嚟搞嘅。2-3蚊買一包雲吞皮，你要自己去買個 machine 幾多錢翻嚟整啊？你日日食雲吞喎。你係咪整去賣係咪？你整咗去賣就話啫，你紅多人工自己俾做乜啊？
The KitchenAid probably able to do it.
You can do like what if you do like some people use maybe like a pasta machine, makes it really thin. Would you ever do that and then maybe just cut out the squares?
I think if you have back the machine, you
Like
can.
a pasta machine, yeah. I think I can do that.
The thinness is so thin. I still kind of wondering. It's kind of difficult.
Yeah. What about frying them?
有人炸㗎，嗰啲伊雲吞咧就炸啦。不過你炸嘅時候就唔適宜用呢隻皮，用隻厚皮炸，用中皮或者厚皮嚟包嚟炸。
How about size of meat? Do you do less meat when it's fried?
少啲肉容易熟啲。通常如果係炸嘅就伊雲吞炸雲吞咧，就唔係咁樣包法㗎，就係咁樣包都冇問題。不過佢啲肉多，咁你要炸得夠肉熟嘅時候咧，你塊皮已經係燶晒。
How many do you make at once? If you're gonna make some and freeze it, how many would you make?
我一次包一包雲吞100粒。
100.
100 for one time.
一包皮係100粒。
And how long does it take you to wrap 100?
唔使好多時間啫，100粒雲吞唔使。
It's not that much time.
Like 5 minutes.
No.
Easy.
Hello, dear fan, dear audience. Thank you for your valuable time to watching our video today. This video is really useful, practical for our 5-minute cooking. Thank you again for your watching. You enjoy, you like, you support, and you share.
Cutie.
We see you next time. Bye.
He's so cute.